Welcome back to Reimagine. Here we are at yet another iteration of this conference where the field that we're working in here, the blockchain crypto world at large, just continues to get more and more interesting, more and more engaging, more and more diverse, and more and more developed and mature as an ecosystem. And I speak today with a man who I think really, helps to personify that development and maturity of an ecosystem. We're not just talking about some 2017 ICO where someone's trying to make a quick buck here. We're talking about people who are really invested in innovating, changing, developing, and using this technology to achieve new highs. I'm welcome now Hatem Hachana, COO of Utopia Genesis Foundation. Hatem, firstly, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me here.
All right, so Hatem, I want to start this. I want to give that personal touch, that human touch, so that our audience can understand a little bit. Tell us a little bit about who you are, why you're significant, why we're talking to you today, and then we'll get into the Utopia Genesis Foundation.
So who I am? I'm
I start easy.
Yeah. No, I'm a 29-year-old guy from Sweden. Started with crypto early to now it sounds early, but it's not. Like 2017. I actually started to mine Ethereum from nowhere. I don't even remember why I did it. And after that, I got hooked. I got really, really hooked in this space. And I start to work as a consultant for a music tech company, and well, from there everything started to where I'm at today.
A classic story, and I love, as you say there, when it comes to feeling like you're early or not, now we're in this wave. Everyone who came in back in that 2017, 18 wave, now suddenly we feel like the OGs. And then before that, everyone from 2015, I was talking to guys the other day who were in 2012 and were like, when I got in 2012, I was convinced I was too late. I'd missed the boat. Everything was gone. So, everything's relative.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into this here. The Utopia Genesis Foundation, it's a pretty, expansive project. What I understand of it, you guys have some pretty wicked ambitions. Break it down for our audience here. What are you guys about? What are your goals? Give us some of the basic outlines.
Yeah, so we started the foundation. Our main goal was to deliver to the music industry, the transparency and the communication and the fairness in the whole industry. Because that is what the music industry is lacking. And we said, well, why don't we do a Swiss foundation, a non-profit foundation, and really show the music industry we are here. And we are actually here to try to help and not disrupt. I don't like the word disrupt because we want to have everybody in the music industry still there, what they are doing, but try to help everyone earn more money. But they need to change a little bit to become more digital. So yeah, that's the main point, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I love that ethos, but can we break down a little bit more how the sort of blockchain element and the sort of new technological elements, we don't have to go into the details of the tech, but just in essence, how that is changing the game. What are you guys bringing to the table that's new, through this tech?
Yeah, so what we're trying to deliver to this game is first of all, we're trying to make music copyright easy, accessible for everyone. Today, the music industry, if you go and ask someone who owns this catalog or this music right, they will answer they have no idea, because no one has any idea who owns what. So just with the blockchain, you can just put it up, make the information accessible for everyone to see who actually is the owner and the revenue splits, etc. Because this brings into another stage. The PROs, they don't know who they are going to pay sometimes because no one has actually reported. So we're trying to fulfill the whole industry and put in the dots where they are missing. So that is one of the key things we're doing. Another thing that we are trying to do is we are trying to make it easy for everyone to invest in music. Not in just you buy music song, because that we can already do, but to invest in a music catalog, in a music project, and get revenue from that project. And if you look at today, the really big music catalog that is owned by some people, it's only institutional investors. But with blockchain, we can bring in people who can invest maybe only $10, Like this will open up a whole new era. And like if you can invest in your fan, or in, like, say for instance you love Metallica and you can invest maybe 0.1% in them, what will you do? Well, you will play their song even more, and you will recommend people to buy their share of their music catalog. And what will that bring for Metallica? Well, they will increase their revenue, hopefully, and it's win-win, like free marketing, I would say.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's like that idea that went through the startup world, about a decade ago now. If you start giving employees, a stake in the company, suddenly they're that much more invested in participating and growing and developing the marketing side. You're taking that even further and saying the general public, you want to participate
Yes.
in this, you want to be part of this
Yes.
project, you want to be part of this music, you can invest. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, like fractional ownership. That is more or less what it is. And the cool part is, like, you can expand this even further. Say for instance, you are a medium sized artist, and like you have a pretty good fan base, but your record label doesn't want to invest in you, or like in your live tour. And you say to people, listen, I'm gonna pay for this live tour by myself, and I let you people invest 50% in it, and you get 50% of the net shares. Like, and if they are really successful, well, everyone is a winner in it.
Yeah, everyone's certainly a winner. And I want to, before we sort of delve more into that and what the sort of future holds, I want to pull back for a moment, because I feel like some people, and you hinted on it, like with what the current system is, but I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily understand it. Like, you said that today it's not clear, who necessarily has the rights and who should be receiving the royalties or whatever. What can you explain sort of fairly basically how that system works and why it's so flawed and not clear?
So yeah, so to keep it very, very short and basic, the big labels like Universal, Sony, etc., it was not until 2012 they went with all of their like copyrights and like the ownership, they changed from paper to computer.
Wow.
Like, this is 2012.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
Some artists actually got lost in this, and their catalogs and songs got sold, but no one knows by whom. This is like,
Oh, wow.
it's insane. Like, if you start to ask music artists, I think 90% will tell you like a really fucked up story. Sorry for that.
Oh wow. Oh, please.
So,
you can swear all you want. This isn't pride time. You can do as you like.
no, so like it's insane. And like, you think about it, then we come to the PROs. Okay, when they get reports from, for instance, radio stations that they have played a specific song, because they are obliged to report each song they are playing. But many radio stations, they are not doing that. They just take, okay, how many hours have we played this month? Okay, this many hours. Which are the top songs we have played? Okay, this is like the top 1,000. We take these hours, these top 1,000 artists, and we just split it and send them to the PRO. Wow. And this is actually very, very common. Usually, like from the smaller countries, they are much better to report to the PROs than the bigger countries. So what happens? Well, if you're a small artist, it's not uncommon that you're not even getting paid. Or even for a big artist, you're getting paid, but because the income statement are so low quality, it's just stating music artist, song, which country, and the total amount. Nothing else. If you ask them which radio station, the PROs will be like, I have no idea. And this is like huge mess. So even if you're a big artist, say for instance you get 10K per month from a country, well, when you start digging underneath, you will notice you're probably missing like 10 more Ks.
Wow. So, okay, I mean, this industry, music, film, these sort of industries have always been ones that have been like rife with, stakeholders whose, interests and positions are so varied. Whether we talk about the labels themselves, the artists, the musicians when they're touring live, versus, the writers of the songs. You always hear complaints, where the classic thing, that sort of made it through the public consciousness, I remember, was, Taylor Swift refused to be on Spotify for several years because she felt that it wasn't giving artists their fair shake. And now some people say it's an opportunity for up and coming artists, but others say no, they're getting ripped off. I mean, talk a little bit about that industry. Let's talk about like how it works now and the stakeholders and who's winning, who's losing, and why we need this shit.
So to start off with, like Spotify, like a lot of people have misconception about them, that they are making a lot of money. Spotify is not making money at all. If you look at their revenue, I don't think they have ever been plus in their revenue. Never. Like, because they are supposed, they are paying like how you say, like a licensing fee to have specific music there, and they are sure they're paying a little amount for each play. But I would say, well, they're actually reporting the right amount that is played, not compared to radio stations. And if we take up someone that has been very, very bad that is getting better, is actually YouTube, because it's owned by Google. No one actually have like the funds to go and attack them. But you, like, if you think about it, like most of the music is actually played on YouTube, and they are paying out the least. But it's actually getting better. I saw some report not that long ago. But yeah, but like the DSPs, the digital service providers, they are paying, I would say. Like I would say television and sync deals and radio music is far the worst. Also, like live concerts and like festivals, sometimes they are not even reporting which song has been played.
So then it seems to me, this comes down to a question of data. This is a data-driven situation. This is a case of, where the data is being collected, whether it's being enforced, whether it's being tracked. As you said, in the case of Google, no one can come after them, so they can report what they want, even if they are, supposedly one of the biggest data companies in the world. So I know this is a big part of, the Utopia Genesis Foundation's ideal, that idea of collecting good data, tracking that data, and obviously keeping it then on a blockchain. How will that work in function? Are you talking a permissionless or permission blockchain? Will this be open, public source? What's the sort of approach you're taking?
We have access to over 150,000 radio stations all over the world. It has collected over 9 billion music consumption radio stations right now. It's not, how you say, it's not our data 100%. We are getting this data from our founders. To play around with it and like make a data visualization for music artists and labels, so they can search for the song and they see, okay, they track their specific song or artist, and they say, okay, in the last month I have been played on this radio station in this country, and this song is mostly played maybe at 7 p.m. on Friday. So we want to give this back to musicians, like, so they can make better PR marketing and stuff like that, and plan their next tour. But our parent company, or the founders, I would say, they are using this data to help the PROs and the music artists to collect uncollected revenue, I would say, more or less. But what we want to do with this data on the blockchain, every time someone has bought the data, we want to put it on the blockchain. So you can only access it by hash. And if someone says, okay, like PRO, etc., comes and say, like, this data is not valid, we can say, no, it has actually been like fingerprinted and it's on the blockchain. So that is what we are doing with the data.
And I guess, who stands most to benefit from a system like this? It seems like obviously the artists themselves, the musicians, maybe the writers, but is it also about the labels, the producers? I mean, is this a net, rising tide lifting all ships? Does someone lose? Does someone win?
I wouldn't say someone would lose, because in the end it brings more money to everyone. This is the thing, like it brings in money to all of them. So yeah, no, I wouldn't say, like, this is what I said in the beginning, we're not here to disrupt, we're here to like help the missing pieces, I would say.
I like that vision. It's sort of a developmental, incremental, not everything has to be a revolution. Some systems work and we're just trying to take them to that next level. But then I guess, from the way I understand it, and correct me if I'm misinterpreting here, but there needs to be a little bit of a network effect going on here. People need to start utilizing your guys' system and getting involved. You need that sort of that Merkel effect of all the networks coming into place, and as it grows, the network effect will grow and people will start to understand this as an industry standard. I mean, that seems to be true of so many blockchain projects out there. that there needs to develop that network, and not even just blockchain, any new sort of ideas and databases, they need to hit that tipping point. How far along that process do you feel you guys are? And do you see, is there a tipping point? Does Universal sign on and then suddenly you're okay? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, this is actually a tricky question, but like to give some back explanation on that is, like 2 months ago we started to make like outreaches to labels and etc. We discussed like the tokenization of music rights and this data we have, etc. And people like, yeah, we're interested, but you notice like in the emails and the calls, people are a little bit scared of the blockchain. And then NFT came up. Now, when we reach out to people, they're like, yeah, what can we do? but this is the like NFT craze, I would say, and everybody wants to be involved in the blockchain and crypto. But there's two-sided in this as well. Like some artists and labels, they want to get rich through crypto, but they don't want to touch the crypto. Right. But it's coming along. Like I have had really, really good talks, and like now it's actually started to people reaching out to us and we not to them. I'm not gonna mention any names, but there have been really, really, really big ones. I can say that are saying like, okay, we have noticed you guys. We are seeing what you are doing. And we hope for the best, that you're coming with something really good, and we probably will support you when it's like has been up and running for a while, because the really big ones, they're not gonna be the first ones. Like you need to have the medium and the small ones, but we are actually getting a lot of traction there as well. So I'm very confident it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, but it's such an important point you raised, though. When it comes to so many projects, fidelity is proven over time. It's something I always say, that trust can only come over time. And, no matter what, as much as we're innovating and people are building new ideas and new projects, you're not going to get those big players on board. Hell, it took Bitcoin 12 years before, serious people started to be like, oh, you know what, maybe this is a good idea. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, something like the music industry, which has not always been known, I would say, even your own example is not known as the most progressive industry. Things are going to take time, right?
Yeah, but I can tell you, like some of the bigger ones, they are actually opening up now and noticing like they cannot stay in behind. Like who was it? It was only Sony Music who invested in Spotify, and Spotify actually went to all the big labels and asked them, and almost all of them turned them down. So they are noticing like we have lost money on that. So people are much more open to doing things. If you're noticing like Universal, they have built their own Roblox team and stuff like that. They are moving forward, I would say.
This is I mean, do you think projects such as your own, and without giving, you don't have to sort of get into specifics of business strategy, but I mean, do you think the ultimate thing will be this sort of convergence where, like, it gets bought up by a label or it gets centralized around a certain label, or do you think there'll be a point to keep the independence, to keep the separation, and be sort of a meta body around the industry?
I think it will be much more independency. Like people, artists, etc., noticing they can keep much more money if they're more independent and do things on their own way. Because back in the days, you couldn't do like the marketing and putting up your song on the radio stations and digital service providers. But now there's a lot of good tools that you can do that. So a lot of artists are much more independent compared to before, and they have seen, like, for instance, the Kanye West thing with Taylor Swift. Like, people are seeing, like, okay, this is not good. We need to protect our copyrights. So yeah, I don't know. Like, if not, the labels are gonna come up with better deals to their artists. I think they will be like how you say, the bigger labels will be like banks for big artists.
Mm-hmm. So we've talked a lot about, like, sort of the artist side, the copyright side, the data side. I want to flick back for a moment back to that investment side, sort of crowdfunding, tokenized investment side. And we touched a little before, but I think it's interesting for a lot of people and a lot of our viewers who aren't necessarily music artists themselves, but might be more interested in that side. I want to sort of delve into it a little bit. Have you guys, or is that already up and operational? What's the sort of status of that side of the
we have come really far on that part. I would say like we could launch it in 6 weeks, but what we want to do, I want to do a pretty cool stuff. I just don't want to put up a music artist here. You can invest in a music artist, because if you think about it, if you invest in a small artist, how much revenue can you get as a shareholder back per year, and like how much worth will that share be in the long run? So what I wanted to create is like a pool, like a funding, like crowdfunding pool. So artists ask for, okay, I want this much of funding for my next project, and I use my back catalog as collateral. So the pool gets revenue from the back catalog, X amount of percentage, and they give the same percentage of their new song for a minimum of 5 years, but they still keep 100% of the copyright. And this way, like if we can get really many artists, the share value will go up, the revenue value will go up very much, and then you have created something really cool, like a fund, more or less. But the labels, music catalog owner still owns everything, and after 5 years they can do whatever they want. If they want to pull it out from there, they can do that.
Right.
So that is one option. The other option is if you can go to a music catalog or big label and tokenize their catalogs, more or less. So you invest in them. So yeah, I think that is the basic.
Yeah, it's an amazing idea. We've seen this sort of tokenization coming through. There was a big push in the last few years, but with sports stars tokenizing their contracts. But I think there's been that much buzz yet about the music industry doing. I mean, yes, NFTs, as you mentioned, but that's a little quite different to what you guys are talking about here. And I love that idea of a sort of integrated pool. But I sort of wonder, I mean, does that not lend towards the bigger artists? Is there going to be a way that can be focused towards the smaller artists as like up and comers, or do you think that with that pool method, I mean, it seems to me, just thinking on the spot, that if you've already got a big catalog, you'll be at a bigger advantage?
Yeah, sure. If you're a big catalog, you will have bigger advantages, of course. But if you think about it, there will always be funds in the pool. So the small artists, like if you're an unknown, like or very small, we have some criteria for accepting some artists. For instance, we are gonna make like a vote page if some people vote to an unknown artist to get funds, or like a very small one, but we want them to have like at least 5 to 10 uploaded song previously, and at least maybe 10,000 plays on Spotify, like a minimum criteria, so we can filter out a lot of people. And if you think about it, small artists doesn't need that much of funding to make a song and stuff like that. Like 2 or 3K, that is enough for them to come out with something. Sure, bigger labels and catalog owners, they will want more, but as said, people want to invest in the pool. It's so easy to get in funds, to be honest.
Yeah, and I guess as well, you get that sort of that internal community building. If you got an up and coming artist, they don't have much, maybe they'll get more inspired, inspire their community to put that bit more at the start. I guess the snowball effect.
Yeah, we had an idea. We will see how we will execute it. But one cool thing is, like, say for instance, you're a music artist and you want funding. Okay, depending on how much you're giving funds, you can have like 3 different categories or 4 categories. If you invest like $5 to $100, you get the basic level NFT. And if you maybe invest $1,000 or more, you get high level NFT that brings you more value and give you maybe a Zoom call and stuff like that. So you can elaborate a lot with it.
It's a fascinating project, a fascinating idea. I always like to take these conferences as a chance to project into the future as well, and sort of think, I know you guys have a timeline laid out, whatever, but if we're pushing this model out, whatever your timeline let's be, but let's say 5 years, 10 years, I don't know, maybe that's too far. Things move quickly, but I want to, like, in an ideal world, what do you guys create? What does the ideal network look like for you when it's at its peak?
So at its peak, it will, like, be involved with every small artist and like medium-sized artists. Like the big artists, they have super easy to get funding today. We want the small ones to really shine and to get their community growing. So ideally, we have a pretty big community for in the next 5 years that can help the smaller artists and medium-sized artists to build cool projects. We are trying to involve our community in the governance and like stuff like that. What can we do? What do you want to see that we can do and like revolutionary for the industry? So yeah, I know it's a very vague, but I never thought about it before, because I think every 6 months, what can we achieve in the next 6 months? But for sure, I hope that we can get like the big ones involved as well. Maybe help like fund really smart artists, make cool events, stuff like that.
No, look, I mean, that's why I asked this question. I think so many people in this space, focus on that 6 month outlook or even the 3 month outlook, because things move so quickly, and it's understandable. Who knew 6 months ago that the NFT boom would be as great as it was? And as you said, now people are calling that the market would surge like it did. I mean, people will claim they knew everything after the fact, but whatever. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, I don't know. It's good to think about, but no,
yeah. Sorry, but very funny that you're saying that, because we didn't even think about doing the NFT, to be honest. And we actually built it, like when it started, we built our platform on 28 days. So we actually finish it now and like have it solely music centric NFT platform. We give 90% to the music artist and 10% we keep. We have gotten questions. Well, you're a non-profit foundation, why are you taking 10%? Well, it costs to develop and upload things.
Got to pay the bills, man. You got to keep the lights on. I understand that. People get confused. They think non-profit means there's no money involved. There's still money involved.
So I get baffled when I get that question. I was like, what?
So I understand you got to keep the lights on. But yeah, as you say, yeah, so much movement, so much going on. It's really a rapidly changing space, and exciting now that, as I said at the beginning, there's this maturity coming in. I think people are starting to understand this isn't just about like some speculative token I can buy and that's it and sit on. It makes more money and I sell it to the next sucker, and that's the end of the industry. There's real innovation coming in, real stakeholders who can develop value through these networks, and I think that's a pretty powerful idea.
Yeah, no, like, what was I gonna say? I lost myself. Sorry.
That's okay.
It was something, but now I lost it.
Well, it'll come back through the annals of time. I'm sure we'll get to it at some point. All right. But I think without further ado, you've given us such a good wrap and an idea of what you guys are building on, what the industry is looking like, what the stakeholders are going to be. I think this is a fascinating project. We're all going to keep watching. But yeah, I think, Hatem, I want to thank you so much for speaking with us. So valuable to have these developments here. I love these ecosystem stories. I love seeing how they're growing and spacing. Love the shirt. Everybody got to take a look at that. Make sure you're seeing this. If you're listening to this and not viewing, you need to go back and see what the shirt is. But yeah, any last words you want to leave with before we wrap?
No, I wouldn't say. I would thank you very much for having me, and I would say check in the music industry and see how bad and analog it is, and try to help us to rebuild the future for the industry, I would say, more or less.
Yeah, a valuable message to end on. Reimagine viewers, make sure you stay watching. So much more good stuff to come.